So this is the part 2 of lesson 3. We are to cover forms in this discussion. Okay, so we'll continue with the um, example we had with the image map. I'll, uh, I'll create another page. I'll copy and paste this one. Copy and paste, and then remove that part of the section. Because in here, what I will do is to create a form. And there, I'm done. So also the map. So I will create a link. Say from here. Again, the way we create a link is a href. Href means hyperlink reference, and then the file name of the page. So we need to save this first. File, save as, and say this is page2.html and save. So page2.html, close and /a. So so this is the services part. Services example, let's say we'll create a registration form. So in my example, as for the form, my example is I want to create a registration form. Say h3 registration form /h3. So this is our agenda for this discussion. Forms, there are different types of forms, right? Order form, application, exam, survey, and in the form there are a couple of elements that we usually see. Example, like this one, we call this as a text box. This one is a checkbox, and then this one, the one with the visa, is a drop down or a selection box. The big text box, we call it as a text area. The one with the circle is radio button, and we have the submit reset button. So the agenda of this discussion is those elements, are those input controls. So how do we do this elements inside the form? Okay, elements in a form. Okay, how do we do these elements in a form? So let's start. So in a form, there are 3 components. So we have those input controls, those that I mentioned a while ago, and then we have the form tag, and then the submit button. Okay, so all we usually see these components in a form. Input controls may be a data input or a text input. If it's a radio, checkbox, submit and reset. If the input is there already, that's a data input. If the user is the one to input the data or the information, that's a text input, like a text box, text area, or a password text box. So I have here a list of the different input controls that we have in a form. And for us to better explore forms is to cite an example. So I will be now moving on with the example. So like with here, I will create a registration form. So create a form, it starts with the form tag. Form /form. Okay, form/form. And then there are 2 attributes added inside the form. We have the method. Okay, there are 2 methods declared here. The most commonly used is the post. It's much secured and efficient as compared to the other method, which is get. And then the action is what the browser will do the moment that the submit button is clicked. We are after with the layout. So let's say what we want is to just send the form to the email. Okay, so to do that, the code is mail to : and then the email ad. Okay, there. So let's start with this form. So let's say first thing I will declare is the name. Okay, so very important to observe the appropriate input controls to use. Like with the name, it's best is of course in a text box. So with the text box, it's under the input tag. Okay, it's a single tag. It's a single tag. It's under here, input. So to create a text box, you add an attribute of type equals text. And then there are a couple of attributes added in the text box, like the size. Size is the number, example, let's say 15. 15 is the number of displayed characters. Okay? And let's say max length. Max length is the number of characters that will fit in on the box, on the text box. So let's say 20. Also very important to add a name. I forgot the name. So let's say name, pangalan. Pangalan is name in Tagalog. This is the label of the text box. You may have series of text box in the form. So better to have labels so it can serve as a guide when it will be organized on the back end on the database part. So there. Okay, this is how you create the text box. So next is, let's say I'll add an age. So let's say age is also, let's say, a text box. So you have to design principles. The size should fit in on what is expected to be inputted on that specific text box. Like with the age, we only type two numbers, right? So best size for that is say 2, max length, let's say 3. Maybe because there's, let's say, 100 years old. Anyways, so there, okay? So I'll save this na. Sinave ko na. And then I'll just add an HR, a little bit of kaartihan. HR, Control S, and then see what happens. Page 2. So you've added now a 2 text box. Okay, so yan, I have 2 text box, registration form, and let me continue. So next is, let's say I will add a ano na ba? Radio button, gender. Example, gender. Sorry, sex na lang pala. I have a joke with the sex. Example with the sex. Okay? So again, observe that the appropriate input controls to use. For example, we've used a text box for this. Okay? F5. So maybe the user will get confused with the sex. Maybe what it will type is 3 times. Diba? So better, because sex is already defined, better to declare the gender. Okay, which is male and female. And the appropriate input control for that is a radio button, right? So for the radio, it's still under input tag. Just replace the type with radio. Radio. I haven't added yung double quotes ha, but again, make sure values has double quotes. Double quotation. Okay, the name, let's say this is gender. Of course, there's no more size and max length. Value is one attribute under the radio. This has something to do with the label of the option. Say lalaki. This is one radio button. So there will be another radio button for the female option. Say this time babae. Okay. The gender, the label of the gender should be same to identify that these are in one group. Control S and then F5. And there, we have created a radio button. Okay. Okay. And then next is a checkbox. Example with the checkbox, let's say, I cannot think of an example. Choose house type you like. Okay, so let's say bungalow, condo, mansion, palace, or a townhouse. So let's say you can choose more. So best is a checkbox. Checkbox is still under input tag. Okay. So instead of radio, you add checkbox and there. So let's say this is a for the bahay. House is bahay for those who are English speaking dollar. And this value, let's say bungalow. This again has something to do with the label. Copy that, paste, 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 and paste, and then change the label. Okay, so let's say this one is condo, mansion, palace, and townhouse. And there, I'm done. So control S, controls. I'll just add another BR here. Control S and C. The good thing with checkbox is you can choose more. So you choose checkbox if you want to choose more. Ang radio kasi, radio is you can only choose one. Okay, that's the difference. Next is the selection box. Drop down. Let's say we'll create birthday. Okay, so example with the birthday is you have the month, age, and the year. So let's say selection box has a different tag. It's under select /select. This is how you create a selection box or a drop down. And then options are enclosed within the option tag. Option /option. Say 1. I will not add all those numbers in the month. Okay, 1 to 30. I'll just add 1 to 3. So, and then I'll have another selection box for the month and say for the year. How about for the, so for the month, it should be complete, January, February, March. And how about for the year? For the year, there's no need to 000. So is there anyone who can be a user that were born 0000? So you have to think of those target users. Example, if your target users is from 18 to 50 years old, so you need to know yung birth date of, or yung the year that they were born from from the 18 years old to the 50 years old. So let's say it's from, let's say you're expecting na those who were born year 2000 are user of your web system, and then go and then below. Okay, let's say up to 1960, so 1998, so on and so forth. And then to label this selection box, you need to add a name or ID. Actually, you can also use ID. ID actually is the more updated na attribute. So let's say this is day. Okay, so this time I will use ID. This is month, and last is the label for the year. So control S, go back, F5, and there I've created a drop down. Okay, there. So next is text area. For the text area is I'll just add a BR. For the text area, example, let's say any suggestions, and I will create a text area for this. Text area is under text area / text area, and then you have to add the rows and columns. Rows is the number of lines, say 20. Columns is the number of characters, say 100. And then say ID again, a label, say suggestion. Suggest na lang, okay na yan. So I'll add another BR. There are added attributes also, by the way, in this form. You may check on that in the W3 schools. And there now I have created my text area. And the last is the submit and reset button. Okay, so the submit and reset button is under the input tag, and that is input type submit, value equals submit. Okay, and then for the reset, it's the same, type reset, value of reset. Okay, control S and then F5. there for the submit and then the reset value. So again, the moment you click the submit, what happens is it is looking for an email, okay, because what I declared in the action inside the form is to send it to email, right? Which is not set up here in my computer. Anyways, again, I'm after again with the layout, okay. The interaction of the form to the database, it will be discussed to you in your e-commerce, in your web 2, when the PHP SQL will be discussed. So there, I'll add the example. Let's say here at the top, let's say I'll add, say, another information, say username and password, okay. So let's say username is the same, like this one for the username, and then change the label. And then for the password, diba, password is appeared, it appears by bullets, okay. For that to happen, to declare a password box, just replace the type with password. So that's input type password, okay. And then of course change the label, password. Control S and see what happens. F5 and there, okay. Yan na, naka bullets na siya. Okay. So I think I'm done with the basic of the HTML forms. So I have already covered those. Yan, the password, the radio button, the checkbox, the selection box in the text area, and then the field set. Field set is a way for you to group your forms. Example, I'd like to group the username, so I will, and the password. So I will enclose these two with field set slash field set, and Control S, and then just add a BR so it's not that close or sticky. Sticky, joke yung sticky. Sticky is like dikit eh, parang hindi siya nakadikit. Anyways, there, okay, I have the one, the box that you see there, that's a that's a field set. We can also have labels on the field set. That's under legend. Example, let's say login info, and then slash legend, close. Okay, we may also align the legend. So example, I want to align this on the right side of the page. Control S, F5, and there, that's the login info, okay, field set. I've already discussed during the demonstration those attributes added in each of the input controls. I have a summary here, and then the two action method, the two methods under the form, which I mentioned a while ago. So these are the different attributes of the input, okay, and then the legend in the field set, and then the selection box, and then the option attributes, also text area, and then I have an example also here on the slide, okay. In HTML5 there were added input elements, some of which are added here, like data list. You may explore this as well. It's like a selection box. So this is how it looks like. So it's like a selection box again, only in different form. And then very important in the form that to observe semantic markup, especially now with the HTML5, that if a number is what is to be inputted, what is expected, what is to be inputted or what is expected to be inputted is a number, then your type should be a number. Okay, before it's only text eh. But nowadays nga, with HTML5, we need to observe that we need to observe semantic markup. Okay. This also helps in the validation. Okay. Declaring example a type. If it's a number, you declare it as a type equals number. Validation is discussed in your programming. So you may also declare a minimum and maximum number. Uh, may also specify if it's a date. There's that input type date. Date will, our browser recognized calendars. Okay, I will add this example. Let's say, instead of my example here of having a selection box, what I want is the birthday is in a form of a calendar. Okay. Ah, I'll just type it again. So input type equals date and then a label of birthday. Okay. Control C, Control V, Control S, and then go back F5. And there, oh, okay, calendar. So that's input type date. Okay. And there. Okay. So our browser can has that ability to recognize yung calendars. And to enable that there, input type date. May also declare only the month, the time, also input time. And then if it's an email, declare type equals email. Okay. So for example, let's say, example in here, in the username, what is expected is in the form of an email. So your type here should be email. And with the support of programming, when the user did not type the right email format, it will not be accepted. That's how it is. Okay, I have an example here. And then, if you want to add the search, yung Google search bar, input type search. And then autocomplete. Diba there are instances where our browsers can, like this one, no? We call that as autocomplete. Okay. So naka-enable na nga. Anyway, to enable that, the autocomplete is, you add this one. Just add this inside the form. Okay, form tag. Autocomplete equals on. So autocomplete tab equals on. And then save. Control S. Okay. F5. So for example, submit. There, see that's the input validation. Diba, there's this message na saying na it should be an email in an email format. Okay. Anyways, this is an example of the autocomplete. Okay, there. Okay, autocomplete. So, and that's the end of the form. Okay. During the Zoom session, I will discuss the exercise related for this discussion, image map and forms. So, thank you. Keep safe. Together we learn as one.